Hello, here are tips on defending yourself in court using AI. If you don't want a court-appointed attorney and you feel as thought you can represent yourself adequately in court, I personally recommend using Chat GPT for assistance, and there are some important reasons why that's probably the best idea. You do have that right to represent yourself in court, generally speaking, with some exceptions. Let's look at 3 tips if you're going to engage in that software representation. The first one is the I didn't do it approach. That's not very effective. Prosecutors and judges are used to hearing that. Pleading your innocence in arguing with a prosecutor whether or not in front of a jury regarding your guilt or innocence isn't going to cut it. It's not enough for you to express your own opposition to the prosecutor taking action against you. What you do want to do is to focus on the government's weaknesses and its case against you. Now, the reason that's so important is you want to communicate to the prosecutor that their case won't live up to the test in front of a jury. You want to take away their motivation. You want to take away any impetus they have on their side to continue to prosecute. In other words, you want to make them a little bit scared. That if they use all of their resources and energy and time prosecuting you at the end of the day, it's not going to be a worthwhile investment for them because the case is very weak. For example, if you've gone through what's called the discovery or disclosure, which is the police reports and the witness statements and all of that stuff, you've combed through that and you find discrepancies that you can identify, you can back them up with contradictory statements, or maybe you have an investigator friend, or you hire an investigator. And you uncover that some of those statements or allegations are very inconsistent or not very believable, and you document all that stuff, and allow the prosecutor see it. They'll think it's just not worth their time. In other words, you want to amass as much bargaining power as possible because you may be able to bargain something with the prosecutor where you avoid jail. That's always the order of the day, making sure jail is off the table. If that's not possible, at least, to minimize it as much as possible, or maybe looking at alternative sentencing, and that sort of thing. What you're not going to do is begging and pleading, or arguing. You're going to do it by amassing leverage, bargaining power, and documenting everything to show the prosecutor that they're barking up at the wrong tree. So you must have that evidence in your corner, if you can get it. It'll be compelling. And it can make a tremendous difference, much more so than doing what everybody else does, which is essentially arguing on things that don't matter. Okay, all right. Thirdly, you want to amass an arsenal of materials that show that this type of accusation is out of character for you. For example, if you're being accused of petty theft, embezzlement, some sort of theft crime, you may want to get character references, maybe from previous employers or people who have trusted you to look after their stuff. House-sitting, anything like that, anything that shows that you've been entrusted with property before and you were never suspected in that situation of having taken anything. So in other words, you want to show for that specific type of offense. An offense involving dishonesty. You want to try to amass character reference letters from people that show that you actually are very honest, and that you have demonstrated that you've lived up to being trusted. Somebody who can be confided in and somebody who doesn't run off with other people's property. And the reason that that's so important is it'll help show the prosecutor that this is quite out of character for you. The other thing that can show is that this is, in fact, if you did do it and the evidence is overwhelming. The prosecutor can see that this is sort of an outlier in your character. Maybe this was an isolated incident, isolated event, and maybe they'll give you some sort of an alternative sentencing or something called diversion. None of this stuff is ironclad. At the end of the day, the most ironclad defense you can have is having an experienced criminal defense counsel in your side, and the alternative is using AI to help you navigate through research and law, case examples, and all the information Chat GPT can gather for you. After all, these are just generally speaking common sense tips. Thank you for watching Everyday Crime and Law.